The political season is here, but there are a few faces that make it very interesting for us to look at, particularly with the case of the NPP primaries in orphan constituencies. These fresh faces are chasing a parliamentary dream, and today I'm going to be bringing a few of them onto the show for a conversation, and I'm really interested in what is the inspiration behind their desire to go to parliament. The place when you speak to those in the house already, they tell you that this is a place that only gives you stress. It only leaves you poorer than you came in. But many new faces want to get into parliament. What really is the motivation? We'll tap into that for the new patriotic party. Some of them, you've seen them play, talk in the media. This is where they've done their job, and they're going into politics. So very fascinating conversation in prospect. But let's start with the very basics. For many of you who haven't heard, the NPP is holding parliamentary primaries in orphan constituencies. What we talk about orphan constituencies is this fancy name to say in constituencies where they don't have sitting members of parliament. That is constituencies where the NDC is actually the incumbent when it comes to the member of parliament there. So you look at the roadmap for the orphan constituencies. The nominations have opened. It closes on the 10th of August. The elections is going to be run over a period between the September 23rd to December 2nd, 2023. So this is a long period. This is not one that will hold on a single day. So there's a reason why this happened. You have to treat the orphan constituencies as a special case because you want to win it back from the opposition political party, which is the NDC in this case. The nomination fee is 3,000 cedis, but also the filing fee 35,000 cedis. But the thing to note about this particular number here is that this number here is for the male aspirants. For female aspirants and for disabled aspirants, they pay half of this particular amount here. And the party is very mindful of ensuring that the marginalized minority groups are encouraged and given incentives to compete, women and disabled. So they pay only half of this. That's just the surface of what we are talking about. This is break it down for you. But then, if you look at some of the interesting details that we have, and just to tell you the numbers when it comes to orphan constituencies, you know you have to go to parliament, right? Because there are 275 members of parliament there. And you know already, per the numbers, that the NPP has 137 members of parliament, and the NDC has 137 members of parliament as well. And then there's this one independent who breaks the tie but votes with the NPP. So instantly, you begin to see that this part here will be the areas where the NPP aspiring members of candidate will be seeking to make inroads and turn part of this green blue, right? So that is very important. That's where they're going to be competing. And already you begin to see that they will be facing a keener contest, more likely to lose than win, because the NDC indeed has strong footing in this area. And so let's pull up the Ghana map, because the Ghana map tells a story of where we are. And I want to scale it up a bit because then we begin to see the numbers. I don't know if you see them, but let me go through it for you. This is the Ghana map, and the Ghana map now tells you each region and how many orphan constituencies the NPP has there. The darker the color, the bigger the number of orphan constituencies. And the biggest number, and you have to know this, and for me this is absolutely critical to observe in looking at this. The bigger the number that you have, the more you want a number of people to go in there and take away the seats that the NDC is holding. But the Greater Accra region has the biggest number of 20. And I find that very interesting indeed because of the number that the Greater Accra has there. The Greater Accra constituency is a bellwether, the Greater Accra region is a bellwether region. What nationals means is that they are a great predictor of who wins the national elections. The Greater Accra region is always predicted who wins the national elections. Is a swing region, what we call in Ghana a swing region, with the exception of 2000. Something happened in 2000 that has never happened before in our electoral history as far as the Greater Accra is concerned. The NDC won Greater Accra region. John Mahama, in fact, had 51% in Greater Accra region, wins it, but lost in national elections. We've never had that before. instantly you begin to see the challenge for all the NPP aspirants who are going to be contesting in the Greater Accra region. The 2024 elections are going to face an uphill task, trying to take away these 20 seats that they've lost back from the NDC. It's going to be an uphill task because this is a swing region. And they are also facing what nobody has done before. The history is not on their side because no political party has, after 8 years, managed to win. They want to break the 8. So you begin to see the conspiracy of these issues all coming together to make the attacks absolutely arduous in the 2024 elections, considering the huge numbers they have there. And of course, close by it is the Volta region. The next highest number is 17. And so a lot of them are going to go into the Volta region trying to contest and do an Amewu, for example. And they already know this is going to be an uphill task as well in a Volta region with 17 orphan constituencies. So you begin to see Greater Accra. So when you go to the swing regions, again, let's go to Central. And you see Central here in the middle, because Central then, as you see there, is another of what we know to be the swing region. And again, something very interesting happened. Central region also broke away from what we know to be the norm in 2020. But we expect that both Central region and the Greater Accra region, and that's them, will return to type. Will return to type in 2024. You expect that they will now return, that what happened in 2020 is an outlier. They'll return to type and vote and predict for us what will happen in the national elections, correct? So clearly you have 13 seats there that these aspiring NPP MPs would want to take back from the NDC, and again, it's going to be an uphill task because they have history against them. They also have a situation where they lost it already, that region, in terms of the number of seats in the 2020, and they're going into another elections and hoping that these ladies and gentlemen who are picking forms will take it back somehow miraculously from the NDC. They will have to do something really great to win it back. And so that's the story for the swing regions. Western region is the same, 6 that they had to take back. And if you go to the northern part of the country, you begin to see another picture, for example, playing out in the Upper East region there, right? The Upper East region tells you a story of 14 that they will hope that they can bring it back. That's where the question of the Bawumia effect will play. And as we approach the presidential primaries, so we're digging into the numbers a bit when it comes to Dr. Bawumia and his effect in the northern parts of the country. And that is beginning to tell us a story of what may happen in the areas, for example, in the Upper East region, where there are 14 orphan constituencies there that the NDC, NPP MPs will want to take back. Which of them will like to associate with Dr. Bawumia, for example, because the strong indications we are getting from the research that we are beginning to drill down on show that he's had a great impact on the party's fortunes since he stepped into the fray with Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo way back for the 2008 elections. And he's managed to improve the party's fortunes. You can do it before and after. Before Bawumia in the northern regions and after Bawumia, you see the line trending up. Don't worry, that's for later. We'll begin to tell you that story. But then you begin to see which of these candidates, if you are in the northern region, want to take back 14 of these seats, one of the 14 in the Upper East region, would you want to align, for example, with Dr. Bawumia going into the elections and hope to get part of his stardust in the part of the country? Same with the Upper West region with 8 seats that they want to get out of that particular place. So very interesting dynamics indeed we expect to play out in elections that the individuals are now going to contest in these orphan constituencies. But then we need to look then at the faces, right? These faces are pretty interesting. The Haji Rashid Bawa is Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria. He's picking up a form to contest. Also picking up a form is Eugene Ahin. And you know Eugene Ahin. Eugene Ahin is the Director of Elections, Director of Communications, rather, at the presidency. He's been there for a while. He's decided to go and pick forms that's seeking to contest in the Wutu Senya West constituency there in the central region. One of those who's going to face an uphill battle because of the very unpredictable nature of the central region. And he's going to come up against, indeed, if the Mr. George Anda decides to go again, he's going to come up against him in the primary. So already you're beginning to see a very interesting contest, expected to be played out in that particular part of the central region, the Wutu Senya West constituency. And then Jefferson Saki, who, by the way, was my colleague here at Multimedia, also picking up forms to contest. He's a deputy director of communication. So both of them, the director and his deputy, are picking up forms. Where is he going? He is seeking to pick up that seat in the Ablekuma Central. But he first must win in the primaries to cross this particular hurdle. So very interesting faces there that we have. I don't know them to be politicians, but they've possibly thought about it pretty carefully, and they believe this is the time to go. And that's why I'm fascinated, looking forward to this conversation with them, to tap into the political side of Jefferson Saki, who I have not known to have any political bone in him, but he apparently has developed the bone, and a very good one too. So we'll get to hear from Jefferson Saki when he joins us for a conversation here on PM Express on this ambition of his to go to Parliament. And then also, another man who was with us here at Multimedia is Mark Okrikumante. He's the Deputy Minister of Tourism, seeking to annex the Ayensua North constituency seat, a seat that is an NPP stronghold that the NPP lost. I bet so far in these known faces, he has the simplest of tasks relative to the others, right? Because this constituency is a stronghold. I'll demonstrate that for a stronghold of the NPP, and they lost it very close margin in the last elections. And then we have Akosia Menu, who, of course, also going to be my guest tonight, seeking to contest in Adentan constituency. This is my former constituency, and everybody knows Adenta is one of those unpredictable constituencies, the Greater Accra region. Another swing, they really do not suffer fools. And that's one of the areas that she's going, the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority. So very interesting faces. Some of them we know. We've seen on our televisions and heard their voices. They've now become full-time politicians. At least they want to become going to Parliament. But let's break down some of the constituencies for you, in addition to that of Kwesi Obinfosu, who speaks for the Energy Ministry, who also wants to run this in the Adentan constituency. So you see there, very interesting indeed, a very interesting contest expected to ensue there. So then, let's go to Ayensua. That's what I was talking about, right? This is the NDC chap who won it the last time, and he did great because he's going to come up against Marco Pukrumanti if he wins the primary. Let me emphasize that, because that in itself is not a done deal yet. Because the trend tells us it's going to be one that he should win, because that is what the data tells us. This is a stronghold. As you can see there, we are talking about 1996, won by the NDC. That's the only time they won it. Since then, in 2000, the NPP took it back. In 2004, NPP won it again, and they kept increasing the margins. It dropped slightly in 2000, of course, with the what happened in national elections with the runoff. And then you go to 2012, NDC loses that seat again. NPP wins it. And then you come to 2016, NPP wins it massively with 54.4%. And then something very interesting happens in the last elections when the NDC wins it. Very tight, close margin. Inseparable indeed. 47.3%, 46.7%. So if you look at the trend in the history, this is a stronghold for the NPP. So if he wins the primary, we expect that he has the probability of him winning in this place, if he wins the primary, is pretty high indeed. And then you begin to compare what he's facing there, pretty easy compared to the others. Because Jefferson Saki is going to come up against the incumbent Dan Abdul Latif in that constituency there in Ablekuma Central. What is the story there as far as the trend is concerned? This is one of those constituencies you can really not predict. And this tells you a story, right? Because if you go back to the years, 1996, great predictor of the national elections, by the way, you see there, 1996, the NDC at the bottom there, you see the 2000. If in 2000 you see the NPP winning there, they won it. If you go to the 2008, again, NDC wins it, wins the national elections. You come to 2012, NDC wins it, they win the national elections. You go to 2016, and you see NPP wins it, they win the national elections. So they are a bellwether constituency as well. You come to 2020, and again, NDC wins marginally, very, very, very close indeed, and it has breadth difference there. And maybe Jefferson believes if he wins the primaries, he can flip this into a victory for the party. But can he? But you see clearly this is going to be a challenging one for him going in there. He believes he has what it takes. But then the final one I'm going to look at before we sit for a conversation, the Akosua Mainu's constituency, where he's seeking to become the member of parliament if he wins her primary, also the Adenta constituency. Same story. Adenta is one of those unpredictable ones as well. This gentleman here has proven to be a very formidable force in that particular constituency, as we saw in the NDC primary. So it's going to be tough if she wins because of the penchant of the Adenta constituency to also predict very accurately who wins the national elections, as we've seen there in 2012, 2016, and of course the 2020. The NDC opened up its margin very widely there, and so she's going to come up against a great politician. Young came in, many said was green, but has cut his teeth and has learned the ropes pretty quickly. So that's what we have there. And all three of them will join me for a conversation. Marco Kukumante is the NPP Parliamentary aspirant for Yesuan, as I said, Jefferson Saki and Madam Menu all joining me for a conversation. You want to stay with us. After the break, we'll sit for a chat. And remember that PM Express is always brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we're going to occupy them ourselves. And Syntex tanks, it is strong, it is tough. Alomo Bitters experience greatness in every moment. Then the Ghana AIDS Commission. Details after this. And thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. I'm looking forward to this conversation. People I've known in my professional work as individuals who I can't imagine don't have a political bone, picking up forms to contest. Very interesting conversation in prospect indeed. But remember, first things first, no matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. Syntex Tank is first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank is first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce you to the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex Tank. We have agents nationwide. Call them 0244 335 168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, a year strong, a year tough. And then Cherry Tree Properties. I like Cherry Tree Properties because they talk about passion. Passion is everything. Thinking about buying a new home, talk to those who build with passion. Sloane Square is a new gated community development at Sakumono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you have never experienced. Contact them on 0553 662 366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. 0553 662 366. Well, joining me in the studio right now is Jefferson Saki. And Jefferson Saki, once a colleague, always a colleague, they said. Yes. I mean, when you belong to the fraternity, you don't necessarily just drop out and disappear. So you're still a journalist, but now you're a politician. So I'm getting to ask you the questions now, but thank you for joining us. Also joining us shortly will be Marco Kukumante. He's currently the Deputy Tourism Minister, also used to be a colleague here, but also picked up forms, I understand, to contest in the Yesuano constituency. And then we have, here we go, Akosua Mainu, who's joining us. He's currently Deputy Head of the Youth Employment Program. Hello, how are you? Oh, please unmute for me so I could hear you. Okay. Okay, we'll try and fix the audio so we could hear, as far as this conversation is concerned. But Jefferson, let me start with you as we would bring in Marco Kukumante pretty shortly. You've picked up forms already?
Yes. In fact, it was done for me yesterday by the volunteers of Abosokai in our constituency, together with some, strong party faithfuls who strongly believe that it is important that I go into this contest. Yeah.
Okay, so people picked up for you. I mean, this is Abusokan. This is where we have the spare parts dealers.
Okay. But we have a chunk of our numbers also.
Okay, yes, I see. I mean, but as I said at the beginning, when I must admit, you're still the biggest surprise in as far as the new faces are concerned. Because I know you back in the day, I never thought you have a political bone in your body. You developed it somehow. How?
Well, I think it's been many years of working with somebody you admire and who has mentored you. Working with the then Foreign Minister Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in the Foreign Ministry, seeing his style of politics, his dreams and ambitions for this country, and then also him deciding to contest on the ticket of the NPP. Remember the elections of 2007, the primaries, and then after that, resigning from the Foreign Ministry and joining him on the political campaign trail, presenting Nane's diary then, which was actually projecting the good policies of the then John Agyekum Kufuor government, telling the stories of, then candidate Akufo-Addo and all that. I think traveling across the country, seeing the plight of the people and how, political power can change people's, sort of plight, gave me the courage to be able to, think of the future and then find a very smooth way of transitioning from journalism into politics. So if you ask
Have you always had the ambition, or was there a point where you made the decision, this is the moment to flip? Because even in 2016, 2017, when the government first came to power, did you hold ambitions of becoming a member of parliament in those early years?
No, I never thought of doing that.
Okay. So when did you make the decision?
I think it came as a calling, basically. It just dawned on me, one morning, had a message that your people need you. And then it came with a message, and the message came with a new energy message. And then I knew this is exactly what the message was all about, to go to my people, find a way of, communicating with them, listening to their plight through the political agenda, which I've been serving all these years, and also, get into active politics. So this is how the journey has started, and I think I have not regretted it. It's been amazing so far. I think if you look at politics from the other side, with a different lens, you realize that politicians have better ways or better, opportunities of helping people, getting people out of a lot of challenges. And that is basically what I've been doing for some time now, nurturing.
How long has it been now?
I think it's been a little over 8 months now, nurturing my constituency. But before then, within the political party, while I've been in Latibiokoshi all these years, I've lived in Bochui, in Bemwete, and all that. I schooled at Seven Great Princess
That reminds me of your Latibiokoshi experience.
Yeah, and all that. So everything that you have to do within the political party, organizing cleanup exercises back in the 2020 elections, paying for it, using your media, skill and should I say your professional background to help your political party. And that is what it's been till now.
Stay with me. Let me bring in Akosua. Akosua, what's your story? I mean, I must admit, I saw you, of course, with the former, of course, the First Lady in the office. And then, of course, you became the Deputy CEO. Have you always had this political bone? Or just like Jefferson here with me in the studio, this is something you had to develop in the last few years?
I would say that, and first of all, good evening to your viewers, and good evening to my brother Jefferson in the studio. Back to political leanings. My first exposure would be running for SRC secretary when I was in Legon, University of Ghana. And I always say that experience is literally a subset of what we observe on the larger political platform, which is national politics. After that, there was no real interest in doing frontline politics. But in 2016, through volunteering, I came into contact with Her Excellency, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, and I had the utmost pleasure and, of course, a blessing of having worked with her. And I would say that most of what I've learned in the past couple of years has to do with how she addresses issues or solves problems. And it sort of gave me an idea of how to actually do the politics and be people-centered. And for me, that's always what it's been for me. If you'd go through my private life and what I did, even in business, I like to engage in things that have direct impact on people. And I think it's an extra icing on the cake. If you have done something privately and is impactful, it's easier to transition to do impactful things in public service. So I've taken that decision. It wasn't an easy one, especially given the challenges women often face in the space. It's markedly different from what the men do face, but I don't want to make this a gender conversation. So yes, it is. It is. It's been a blessing. It's been a learning curve.
You've picked up forms already?
Yes, I did. I picked up forms and I filed yesterday. Actually, I filed my forms yesterday, which also marked my 40th birthday. So,
I see.
It's an interesting week.
Well, that coincides. And the thing about both of you, Jefferson and yourself, you decided to contest in the swing constituency. God Christ, I don't know why you decided to do that, but we'll come to interrogate that. That's my analysis showed. Mark Okwekrimante is with me in the studio, and I still remember back in the day watching Mentor One and see him judge people, and pretty harsh, I must say. Now he's going to subject himself to the delegates who would be judging you. You know. But Mark, I'm fascinated when I heard your voice. I heard your voice speak about politics and confirming that you're actually going to run in Ayen-Suano. I'm like, the same question I've been asking them. When did you make that switch? And what was it that convinced you to do it?
Okay. Thank you, Evans. Good to see you again.
Yes.
Good to see Jefferson.
In fact, the last time I had you on the political show of mine, we were talking about the manifesto. I don't even remember. This was before the 2020 elections or 2016, one of them. And you were in the studio, we were talking about going to the manifesto. We were talking about the arts, tourism, exactly, yes. Tourism.
Yes.
You know, then I didn't know that you actually had it in you, you know.
I've always loved politics. Unfortunately, some of you did not know because, especially when I came back to multimedia, the business position wouldn't allow me to show my face. And so I would form a group like Creative Art for Change to advocate for NPP, and I won't show my face, and you see Sukri Safo fronted. In 2008, I worked with Jefferson on most of the trips with President Akufo-Addo. The popular one was the La Beach stage thing that happened, and Jefferson was the one covering that event, that fateful day. And so I've always been around, especially when it comes to President Akufo-Addo.
I see. So you've always had the political gene in you.
Yes.
Okay. And then you decided to contest as well.
Okay.
Because there's one, being associated, and one now throwing your hat in and jumping into the fire.
Sure. I come from a constituency called Ayen-Suano, where I was born. I'm actually from Kwapim, but most of the people from Ayen-Suano are people who migrated from the Kwapim Mountains, are people who went to farm in those villages. I come from Krabokese, Kota, some people, Suboy, Teacher Mante. I just want people to know where Ayen-Suano is. It's very close to Nsawam in the eastern region of Ghana. After election 2020, I wanted to engage my MP who lost the seat to find out why and where we went wrong. He was not forthcoming with information. We still wanted to support. But at a point in time, when I used to work with you at Multimedia, there were some young men who used to come around to tell me that I must begin to consider Ayen-Suano. At the time, I wasn't too serious about it. But I didn't see myself fronting. So when we lost in 2020, and my engagement with the MP, I noticed that the PR wasn't too good. I noticed that the constituency had a challenge with this type of leader. And so my people wanted me to come on board. Most of the time, I was surprised when I heard Jefferson saying that he didn't get people calling him to come on board. But most of the people in Parliament, it is the people who will call you and tell you that we think we need you to come and do this for us. And so I was called, I was motivated, influenced by some people in the constituency. I did my own SWOT analysis, whether I have enough energy to go forward. It is not easy to take this decision. It is not.
What makes it difficult?
I mean, it's time consuming. You are used to your old life. Yeah. It comes with new environment, new life. You are not yourself. Now you are serving a whole community. And so you must change your way of thinking, your worldview, and then especially those of us from showbiz. That's not the place to go and play stardom, you know. So it took a lot of time, consultation, engagement with some people, as role models who would advise you, direct you, whether you are taking the right decision or not. Finally, we settled and said, we are good to go, especially when we got some of the people in the constituency who believed in us and said, we are going with you, we are driving you forward.
Let's look at some of the specifics. And your constituencies are all very different. And the Jefferson and Akosua, you are in swing constituencies.
Swing constituency.
You need to explain to me, and I did analysis that your constituency will always a bellwether constituency. It will predict the ultimate winner. Those constituencies are unpredictable. You can't rely on them. And then in addition to your challenge, you are also now facing the eight-year curse, right? Nobody has done it before. Of course, your party says they're breaking it. So why did you choose, of all the constituencies in the world, Jefferson, choose that constituency, Ablekuma Central?
Well, it couldn't have been any other constituency than a constituency that you've spent all your life, lived all your life. That is the most important thing. The perception that Ablekuma Central constituency is a swing seat is what I beg to differ in a way, because I think after CS Crab, we had Okule Norte. Okule Norte was able to, he was able to hold the seat on 3 consecutive elections, you know, until Tete Chai took over from him in the 2008 elections, obviously, because I am very sure and confident that if he had, you know, contested again, I'm talking about Okule Norte, perhaps he could have won, because the party changed its candidature to Honorable Saba. We lost that particular election. After that, Tete Chai won 2 consecutive elections. And then we had, in the 2016, a strong wind of change that blew across the country. We had Honorable Ebenezer Nate holding the seat. Unfortunately, in the 2020 elections, we lost it. We lost it despite all the many, you know, developmental agenda that government had set and the many, you know, infrastructural development that was going on in our constituency. An
interesting point you make there, that in 2020, again, they voted with Greater Accra.
Yes.
And the first time Greater Accra votes for the losing candidate, but ends up in your position, if you know what I mean. Yeah. It always voted for whoever wins elections. Yeah. And your constituency actually voted for the party that won Greater Accra, but lost the ultimate. Yeah. So it's been very consistent in telling what is going to happen in Greater Accra reading. So when you were thinking about it, you obviously have analyzed it so well.
Yeah.
Was there a part that scared you?
I don't think so, because I think the dynamics in our constituency is quite clear, that if you have a candidate who is appealing to the people, a candidate who is able to break beyond the natural lovers of the New Patriotic Party into the NDC, you are able to get more marks. Because you see, in 2016, we won with about 6,000 or so margin. Unfortunately, in the 2020 election, the gap was so closed with a margin of about 200.
Yeah.
That is to say that we had lost almost 5,000 and something votes between 2016 and 2020. And I think that it could be an issue of a candidate who perhaps, I'm not pretty, I don't want to use the word, maybe a candidate who perhaps was not reaching out to the people, maybe not listening to the people in one way or the other. And so my belief is that if we have a candidate who is able to cross beyond the borders of the New Patriotic Party into the NDC, I think we should be able to get some numbers and then win the seat. I can assure you that in the 2024 election, we are going to turn Ablekuma Central from green to blue.
Okay, we'll see. I mean, the stats and the history says it's not possible. I mean, but those are stats and history. I mean, those are statistics. So, yeah, I mean, let me bring in Akosua. Akosua, you have the same problem. You have the same problem. Why did you choose Adenta?
Well, it was an easy decision. I've been here over a decade. I've contributed to its progress. I've nurtured the constituency. And I've listened to the needs of the people. And the people are saying that they've had male representation over the last couple of years, and they've never had a female leader. And it will be interesting to see what it would be like to have a female lead. And for that, I believe it's very, very critical to pay attention to that and then to work with what they want to see. If you take the facts also supports that despite, giving the conditions, it should move back to the NPP. But it's not a given. There's a lot of work that has to go in. And of course, I would never underestimate our opponents on the other side, because it's the first time in the history of the other party to have retained the same parliamentary candidates as compared to a change they experienced back in 2016. And Adenta is, like you said, unlike Ayenswano for Mark, there's nothing like I come from Adenta. It's literally a lot of settlers, but there's that vibe, or there's that notion that they want to not necessarily even get anything from you, but they want to see you. So if you look at what goes against candidates, you would be doing the developmental work, but if they're not seeing you in community engagement or interacting with people, be it monthly or quarterly, whatever arrangement you have, it works against you. So I could, in terms of road networks, so for instance, the former MP did a lot of work when it came to roads, yet he was still punished for one reason or another.
Absolutely, yeah.
Those are internal dynamics I don't really want to, open up on the conversation tonight. But it is ripe for the taking. It's not going to be easy, and for the NPP, internal contests are very, very rough. But it's important that, and for me, it's really crucial that we run a clean campaign so that we can all come back together and fight for the greater good.
And I just heard a murmuring among all of you when you said for NPP the internal consensus is very, very tough. I'll come and try and peel the layer and try and test why all of you seem to agree that is the case. But let me come to Mark. Mark, yours is cool chop, as they say. Yours is cool chop. This is the traditional, the stronghold. What happened in 2020? You can call it an outlier. It's something just happened. I mean, the trend says you won this handsomely. Even when you've lost in that last leg, it was close. Yeah. So everybody says whoever wins the primary wins this. So in fact, just like the Volta region for the NDC, you just have to win a primary. Yeah. And you can go to bed. You agree?
Yes, somehow. These days, we don't get too comfortable thinking the way you're thinking. Yes, because I'm sure in 2020, if the MP at the time, I'm sure if somebody had, once Susia had told him that he was going to lose, he would have said the same, this is a crucial for us. Yeah. There's no way the NPP will lose at Ayenswano. We were all surprised when we lost, but there's history to that. There is a perception that our candidate was arrogant or is arrogant, and research showed that he was going to lose. Again, he was our best foot at the time. So we pushed them forward. Unfortunately, that happened. It is obvious he was becoming unpopular because we led 6,000 plus years ago. Yeah. It kept dwindling over time. And then the 6,000 plus became minus 241, which means that the candidate is the problem. So we just must change the candidate. And like you said, with a little effort in the constituency, I'm sure the NDC rep knows that he's just warming the seats. Yes.
But then let me try and put a bit of spanner in the works there. How are you dealing with the fact that 2024 is your 8th year? The problem that I put to all of you. Yeah. And sometimes in 8 years, in the 8th year, you have tsunamis. And that, when it sweeps everybody. Even safe seats become unsafe. Yeah. We saw that in 2016 for the NDC. It just swept everybody away. Do you harbor that fear, considering that you are in your 8th year, the economy has to recover, You still have some time to do so, though. But the temperature right now and all the indications say there's going to be a very, very tough election for you.
We are not underrating 2024. No. We are not. The slogan or the jargon breaking the eight, we understand the gravity of what we are going in for. We, like you said, it's always been a loop of 8 years. Yeah. You go 8 and then you lose it to the next party. But it doesn't also mean that it's not doable. Men.
They said that nobody has done it before.
Yes.
It's the 8th year curse, nobody has broken.
Yes. So it's supposed to be a motivator instead, to push us to work harder, to turn things around as quickly as possible, so that by 2024, first quarter, things begin to look better. Yeah. Yeah. Again, we are not, if you ask me, I still have electricity in my house. It's not as bad as 2016. Yes, we all know the external factors, the macro environment that came to haunt the whole world, not just Ghana. They are telling us that we shouldn't say that because it cannot be true. But as a business student, we were taught micro environment and macro environment. Macro are the uncontrollables you don't have control over. That's why we have force majeure in contracts, because there are things that come that you do not have direct control over. And President Akufo-Addo has seen two of things that he's never seen in his life before, someone who is getting close to 80. So how do you expect me, in my age, to know a pandemic? Russia, I've always read about wars in the books, but I've never seen war in my time.
No, but you must have seen the Iraq War. You must have seen Desert Storm.
Okay. Yeah, somehow, yes. Yeah. And so, but back to back. Right after pandemic, you see war of this nature. And so I think we've done some good things that we can show. Even just in my ministry, tourism, art and culture. I'm not sure in the history of Ghana any other president has done better than President Akufo-Addo. And so when it gets to the right time, we'll tell the world. I'm sure when we are able to...
You know we'll be fact-checking that, right?
Yeah.
you used to work here, he used to work here, he knows we'll be fact-checking that.
Yeah.
So,
we are preparing.
Yes, Jeff.
It is basically because of, your question that I strongly believe that we need candidates that will be very appealing, to the electorate in 2024. Obviously, 2024 is going to be an uphill task. No two ways about that. Of the usual voter apathy would set in. For example, in Ablekuma Central constituency, the most important thing is that you have to win the primaries. That's the key thing. The upcoming primaries before you even think of becoming,
for all of you, and all that. Even more so for market, because for you it's still uncertain even for the primary.
Because basically,
so his will be even more keenly contested because everybody else, in your case, it's 50-50.
I'm going into a contest where this same person has won 3 consecutive, primaries within the party. Unfortunately, gone into 3 different elections, lost 2 and won only 1. And so obviously it is the same thing about, the appeal of a candidate who is able to break into the other areas. So the key question is, what are we doing, as candidates to appeal to the general populace? I think there are quite a number of things that I, for example, been initiating in my constituency, scholarship programs. I think that we should go beyond being members of parliament who would always rely on the consolidated fund, to think of what government can basically do for our constituencies, but, use our links in the private sector, internationally, and all that.
But I'm curious. So you're natural in the constituency.
Of course. It's been happening for quite a while.
But this is a delegates election.
Yes, of course.
So you said you've done scholarships. The scholarship, is it for the delegates?
Basically for the delegates. Everything you do now, it's a test process.
So it's targeted to the delegates?
It's targeted to the delegates, but the general,
How many delegates are you looking at?
We're looking at 1,525 delegates plus Council of Elders, executives, and all
I need to relocate your constituency just to become a delegate so I can benefit from this.
So that is the most important thing. And I'm looking at, youth empowerment. Women empowerment also is very important. To me, in my constituencies, because you're looking at, the New Russia area, the Sukura area. These are settler communities. petty traders and all that.
Abosokan is part of your constituency?
Yes, Abosokan is part of my constituency.
Well, that's where I was born. I
Oh, really?
I was born in But you know this,
boy. Yeah, I mean, long ago he used to say this, yeah. And so I think it is important. I have developed, an Obatampa JDA Futuo, which is the Jefferson Care Women Empowerment Fund. That is, giving out soft loans to petty traders who are delegates within our party. The most important thing is to re-energize, the base of our party, put in some energy within our political party so that it can encourage more people, to work for the party in 2024. Because the general perception basically is that, after elections, we leave the delegates alone and all that. So these are policies that we're putting in place. I, for example, in my constituency...
You made the point that you made the decision about eight months ago, or was it 18?
No, the decision to contest,
okay,
not the nurturing. I mean, these...
You've been nurturing for how long?
For about 2 years, I mean, or more. Because in the 2020 elections, for example, I supported and sponsored, various cleanup exercises within the constituency. Before then, in fact, in my house used to be, a meeting ground for the New Patriotic Party in the 2008 election. In fact, it was in my house that we used to, produce presidential diary. It was then Nane's diary, if you clearly remember, where I used to interview our bigwigs within the party, why the New Patriotic Party should be voted into power and all that. So
what you're doing costs money, and all of you, I guess, have the same challenge.
Yeah.
How are you funding all this?
Yeah, you have people who believe in your dream, people who believe that you...
So this is not your money?
Well, of course. I mean, after many years of, service, both international and local, you have people who believe in you. Let me tell you, for example, that the picking of the form, which cost us 3,000, for example, was done, for me by the volunteers of Abosokan. So far, all my posters in town is sponsored by the volunteers of Abosokan. So these are people who strongly believe that, this is a candidate that if we present in the 2024 election, and if, the delegates are the kingmakers, right? If the polling station executives do endorse this candidate, they are very sure that they are going to rally behind the party.
And Mark, I'll come to you on what sets you apart, because you're going to have a very keen contest there as well. But Akosi, I want to bring you in. You've said before, in addition to going into a constituency that we know is swing and very challenging, you actually hinted that, especially within the NPP, is even more difficult. An internal primary can be a pretty tough one, uniquely so. But then you are a woman, and I want to go there, because the party acknowledges that, and for which reason they allow you to pay half of the 35,000 that all of you paid. That definitely will come up in the conversations that you are having. How are you distinguishing yourself in a race that you yourself acknowledges is going to be extremely tough, possibly acrimonious, in a constituency that many people know is unforgiving? Okay,
so first of all, it goes back to, I have to pivot to the history of our loss in 2020. The fallout of 2020 started right after internal primaries, where parties just couldn't come back together. Okay. Now, even during this contest, there's so many things that has happened that ordinarily, and if you have conversations with friends who are lawyers, they're like, go report it, don't let it slide, But these are the things that when you get into the politics, certain things that you will not let slide privately, you need to ignore in the politics, just so you get everybody on board. It goes to slander, it goes to defamation, it goes to all sort of things. And it could be very depressing if you don't go a thick skin. And I honestly believe the last couple of years, and given the mentors that I've had in this space, have toughened me up to the perils thereof. So it doesn't matter. Anybody can just get up and say anything. But if you focus on that, you get distracted on what really is important. Now, my campaign, one of the themes is the big tent. Why? Because the big tent is, as the delegates have said, a patakesia. Everybody can come into the safety net of Cozy because she is welcoming, she's open, and she didn't take part in any of the divisive games that existed in 2020. And I believe that's the strongest selling point for me when it comes to that. It also goes to what I believe is the dynamics again, it goes back to what they are crying out for, that let's give it to a female. Yes, there's been a parliamentary candidate who was female, but she didn't get the nod. But let's try it this time around, even when members of the opposition wished they had voted for a female as a parliamentary candidate. So it's taking advantage of all these things and also embodying what they want to see. Usually when women get into this space, you can't talk back like the men can do, because you're perceived to, carry yourself or conduct yourself a certain way. And to also help in what I'm doing, that's now people want to see MPs that reflect who they are, so they can relate. It's not necessarily that you have to look like everybody you represent, but they want to feel like they can relate to you. And to do this, in the last couple of months, I set up an office where even when I'm not able to go to that office, even when I'm at work at the NYA, delegates and party members can actually come through and put their problems on the table. And sometimes I don't even need to meet them personally before I solve those problems. And it's not always monetary. Sometimes it's a phone call here,
Yeah, but in politics, we know money is almost everything, and I mean almost, no 95%.
It's important.
How are you funding this?
I'm funding this with a strong alumni.
Alumni from
school.
From
my mates, yes. My old schoolmates, yes, that's one. And of course, there's when you're going to run in a campaign, you literally have to have a template. It starts with everybody you've come into contact with, that you are friends with, or You don't have to exclude anybody. There's a whole book on it, actually.
As in those people you meet, the expectation that they will contribute to your campaign?
Yes, no amount.
But I thought the opposite is true, that once you say you're contesting, when I meet you, I expect you to, rather give me something.
No, it's not necessarily that way. There are people who would see you and not want a dime from you, but would want that you represent them. They feel that, I like how you look. I like the way you speak. I've been following you for some time. And for me in particular, I believe that my work in the media space, speaking for the party, has endeared me to people I'm yet to even meet. So it helps in the engagement. So they'll go back to maybe a banter they saw with me or somebody else on the other side, and they're like, I feel that you'd be a good representative for us. And especially because as much as Adenta is tagged an elite constituency, you and I know that there's a lot of settler communities that are unnecessarily elitist.
Yeah.
There are so many people that can actually even benefit from LEAP. But because it's couched elitist or middle class, they lose out on all these benefits that come from government. And sometimes it's that little, paying attention to that detail to solve these issues that warms them up to me. Anybody that I've met, members of the Zongo community, who have been excited about my candidature, they want to help me get the nod, especially in the primaries and beyond. I've met women, young, old. The young people are saying, I believe that we've watched you over the last couple of years, and you've been consistent in serving the party, and I believe you can do this for us.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm really fascinated to hear that, Mark, there are people in this country who actually will be contributing to your campaign. I thought that was a opposite. But many say, Mark, you are wealthy. You've been in this game for so long, and so unlike Jefferson, who, and Nakusia, who, because I following you've been in the game for so long. You must have amassed a lot of wealth. And build a chest. For the way before Jefferson even woke up to the reality that something called politics. So you are cool, are you not?
I should be cool because I believe that your network is your network.
Okay, so you rely on your network that you built over the period.
Yeah.
But how daunting has it been now gone in there and see that everybody else is looking up to you? Because the reality, the politicians out there in Parliament complain about that. And that's a whole different conversation we'll have after the break. But I'm interested in how you're funding your campaign. See your network. Yes. People actually just want to give you money to campaign.
But I came from the private sector.
True.
Yes, and even when I was working with you here, I still had my business running. I still did my events. I'm connected to a lot of entrepreneurs.
In percentages, how much of it is your own money? How much of it is people contributing?
I've not done that mathematics yet, but generally, your salary cannot do much. No, your salary cannot do much. And so you need the big boys. And for your information, there are entrepreneurs who believe in people and they just want to support you.
I don't believe that.
Yes.
I'm very skeptical towards that. They definitely want something out of this. There's nothing like free lunch, and that is very true, especially in Ghana.
I do not believe it.
But you think they just give you money because they believe in you?
Yes.
They don't want absolutely nothing out of it.
Yeah, there are people who are actually interested in getting right representation in Parliament.
Yes.
Really?
Those are the people that
right
support
representation.
you. Yes.
Mark, you are in an answer no say NPP. NABD. What is right? What is NABD? Is that what we eat? Catch that, mommy.
Which one?
Just who co-representing or Parliament now or support NABD.
Oh, okay.
NABD.
You know, it gets to a time that, and that is why corporate houses do CSR.
No, but the corporate houses won't put money in you because you're a politician.
No, I'm saying that multimedia want to do CSR. Why? Because after some time, they think they have a social contract with society. So they want to give back. Say, it gets to a time, self-actualization. And you also want to give back to society.
But they give it to a politician. That's my point. There are people who just want to give to a politician. What is in it for them?
As in, the entrepreneurs giving to a politician.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe it is not too popular in Ghana, but in Nigeria.
No, but I'm talking about Ghana. I'm talking about, that's what I'm saying. I find it I have a very skeptical view of this.
Evans,
that there are people out there who simply want to put their money in Mark because they believe in Mark's political vision.
Because somebody just want to say that I'm the one who took Mark there.
Yeah. But how do you think people, come from opposition to power? How do you think? That is done through, mobilization, private sector support. Obviously, it is done everywhere. I mean, Nigerian presidential elections, obviously you have to go into the private sector.
But the story goes that those who fund that campaign, they want something out of it once you get into Parliament.
Well, that is only a speculation. But there are also people who want to support people to get the right kinds of people in power.
In Ghana?
Yeah, there are people like
Mark,
that.
I don't believe that. That they simply want you in Parliament because they believe in your vision.
Okay.
They'll be that altruistic just to put money in that campaign for that purpose.
You know, when I used to produce music actively, I'd produce people at a point in time that I knew I wasn't going to get my money back.
But I understand that.
Yes.
I understand that. That's business. Maybe down the line, that person may blow, have a fantastic hit, but this is politics.
Yes.
What is in it for the person? Yes.
I like I mentioned, self-gratification.
And right representation.
I go back to my tree that was horrible that I butchered. Is that what will put food on our table? And they be Diana, self-represented, and
okay, there's a saying that what a cat sees and behaves in a particular way, the dog will also see it and it will bark.
Interesting.
So we are from two different worlds.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to take a break. I need to interrogate this a bit more. But also the question about when you speak to the members of Parliament right now, they always complain that it is draining. It is absolutely draining. So now they are actually talking about amending the campaign financing law, so it puts less pressure on them. They say they are left very poor. They are always, there's a long queue of people every day in front of their houses begging for money, and there's nothing in Parliament. You just talk to the members of Parliament right now. So what really is it that convinces my three guests that they want to make a switch from very successful private work that they've done into politics? And I bet I will hear it is a calling. I want to serve. I am saying that because I'm challenging them to tell me something I haven't heard before. By the way, PMS is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks and Cherry Tree Properties. No matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. Syntex Tank is first to introduce a double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce to you the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and any size of preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex Tanks. We have agents nationwide. 0244-335-168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. A strong, A tough. Cherry Tree Properties desires our wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is really everything. Thinking about buying a new home, talk to those who build with passion. Sloane Square, a new gated community development at Sakumano, developed by Territory Properties, a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you've never experienced. 0553 662 366. Territory Properties, sophistication and class. After this, we'll hear. So I've heard the official reason for going to Parliament and seeking to go there. But what is the unofficial, real reason, considering how everybody else in Parliament complains? But also, the hint that Akosua gave us about how difficult the NPP primaries is. What is it about the NPP primaries that makes it so difficult? All of them murmured in agreement, and I want to tap into that. Stay with me after the break. A very interesting conversation indeed with a few of my friends. Should I call them former friends? Because, you know, when a journalist, you can't really be too much of, you know, of a friend to a politician. I mean, I don't know whether I should call you former friends. You're still my friends. But
once a friend,
we are offended.
You're offended. Yes. Well, I mean, they are watching us. Should I call them my former friends or my they are still my friends, by the way. They are still my friends. And by the way, thanks for staying with us on PM Express, brought to you by Territory Properties. We develop spaces as though we're going to occupy them ourselves. Syntax tanks, it's strong, it's tough. A little bit has experienced greatness in every moment. Ghana AIDS Commission. To that question now, and this is a chorus I've heard, Mark, to you first. From sitting members of Parliament, you speak to them. In fact, there was a time on the floor that the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Fenyo-Markin, actually talked about how hard it is to be a member of Parliament. And he mentioned some of his colleagues who had been in Parliament who are now miserable, actually struggle to even pay their own hospital bills. Because when they're in Parliament, they did a lot, but the people, just the pressure. So you hear that story, and there's nothing glamorous about it. So what is it that convinces you that that place is for you?
It could be true. I will not challenge my brother, Honorable Fenyo-Markin. You know he's absurd. So, yes, he's my brother. I mean, it's not like you who is telling us that we are no longer your friend.
Now, I was asking whether I should still call you my friend.
So, yes, Honorable Fenyo-Markin, yes. Maybe he is there. I am not there. And yet, I am struggling to have a bite or a taste of what they are going through. But I'm not sure that Honorable Fenyo-Markin himself is going through that. It depends on how you manage yourself. Honorable Kennedy Japan, as an entrepreneur, is still strong. He's going for elections as a presidential candidate for the NPP. Yeah. And so I think that it depends on who. Even this same business, multimedia, there are people who can even take more salary than you do. But I'm not sure the results are same. So I'm sure it depends on every individual.
And Jeff?
Yes, I think so. It's about the person, it's about your strategy, it's about the plan with which you enter, Parliament is. I mean, they keep saying that, but they keep coming back to be voted for to go back into Parliament. Yes. And so...
there must be something there.
Yeah, there must be something there. But the most important...
Is it the influence? Is it the power?
The influence is very important. The power, I don't know about that. I think it's about the leadership, the leadership strategy that you are able to put in place, seeing your people rise, from the low to the high. That should be what should be encouraging and motivating you as a leader or as a member of Parliament. I think that the most important thing is that if you're entering Parliament with the notion of making money, then obviously you're going to be miserable. But if you enter in Parliament with the notion of changing the lives of your people, of being the voice of your people, representing them in the right direction, I think it's going to be a very meaningful.
But that's what you all tell us.
But that's the reality. That is the reality. The reality is that people go into Parliament with that ultimate agenda to change the lives of the people. You don't lose focus when you are going into Parliament with that notion. The moment you start losing focus...
Well, I put it to you that people go to Parliament primarily for themselves first, to hopefully, if your party wins, get a ministerial appointment, get a bit of influence, get some power, make some money. And yeah, because you want to win, you have to, funnel part of that back into the constituency, and that is the game plan.
Well, my constituency, for example, we've been in drought for a while. I mean, we've never had a member of Parliament in Ablekuma Central being a minister of State or a Deputy Minister of State or something of that sort. And that is what I am hoping, that if God willing, the people of Ablekuma Central Constituency, but first and most importantly, if our superior delegates are able to vote for me into office, I will be able to, and with prayers attached to it, with the notion and confident and strong belief of breaking the 8, we will be able to get into that. Your perception, your agenda in Parliament is very ultimate. That is what should guide you. If it is you see that as a place of making money and all that, then it's a different ballgame altogether. You have businessmen who are in Parliament, who are supporting people all over the place. He made mention of Kennedy Japan. Alexander Afenyomakin is one person I admire so much. His role in his constituency is hailed everywhere he goes, obviously because he's using his position to influence his people, positively. And I think that should be the perception of anybody wanting to.
Question: what's the real motive? Sorry, please unmute for me.
So you sort of have concluded it's selfish reasons for all of us, but often when you are driven by impact, the question always is, if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? For all of us sitting even at the table talking to you this evening, there's a small window of time where you have the energy and you have the resources and you have the connections to want to effect change. And I believe that for a developing country, most of the things we complain about, often primarily from the middle class, if we step from the sidelines and get into it, as rough as it is, we could actually be the change and effect the change we want to see. So beyond being a calling, it's almost suicidal. Yes, I agree with you. It doesn't make sense, right? But it's important to have effective representation. And some of us literally are the martyrs who are going to do it.
Let's have a bit more of a difficult conversation now. Like, first of all of you run on the strength of what your government have done in the last 8 years. You run on the record of your government.
6 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you win the primary, first of all, even the delegates themselves will be feeling the impact of the economy.
Yeah.
So that part of what they have experienced in the economy will influence. The burden they place on you, as we all know, delegates are kings. And they would exact their pound of flesh from you some way, somehow, depending on how much the economy is biting. And then by extension, the general voter. Okay. So any of you will hope to win. I'm asking now the bigger question that every delegate and every Ghanaian will ask tonight. And Mark, to you first. Proud of that record that you'll be running on if you win in Ayesuano, considering where we are currently with the economy, considering how everybody else is suffering, in fact, the historic economic low we faced. You believe your government had placed you in a position to win in the face of everybody casting a ballot and seeing checking their pockets as a basis for a vote?
I think so. I had one interview yesterday and I mentioned that. I think that because of the economic challenges that we have, somehow it's affected us so much that we are unable to even communicate about some of the good things we've also done. But if we decide to propagate, to put echo or reverb on what we've done, a stronger communication strategy, because people are saying, the people who know the things we've done are saying, you've done well, but you're not communicating. And it is because somehow we've been made to feel that because of the economic challenges, keep quiet. And so some people are not too comfortable speaking. And if I am able to trumpet what this government has done, I'm sure that my people will sing through.
You are in Ashanti region, so let me ask you a specific question.
I'm not in Ashanti.
Sorry, I mean the constituency that borders, you said that's the central region. That's Ayesuano constituency, right?
Do you know why did you say Ayesuano is in the central region?
No, it's not. Okay. That's a mistake. In Ayesuano constituency, yes. You talk to people there, and they said, but developmental challenges all over. True. Roads and good, etc., etc. That's how they are going to be judging you.
Yeah.
You look at your constituency, you're really proud of what in the last 6 years your government had done for the people that you want to represent there?
I know that the biggest challenge in Ayinsuano is the road.
Yeah.
And so I know that if we truly want to win and get our 6,000 or 7,000 plus, it must be the road.
But it hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
So obviously from the start, you were starting off on a limping leg.
Yes, I agree.
You can't turn this around in 2 years, can you?
It can't happen.
You haven't done it in 6 years. Can you do it in 1.5?
It can't happen.
So the evidence shows that in 6 years, your party haven't done enough for your people. That's the question I'm asking. Are you proud of that record in your constituency?
For 6 years, I am not sure that everyone has his level of demands. Ayinsuano, what they're looking for is a road. Thank God, the Num Zone road is fixed. Suboy has always been fixed. That's a highway. The only challenge is the Kota road, which even that, some part was fixed. But the challenge is part of the road is in Anodom Press area. But you need to go through Anodom Press route before you get to
Adreji. Before you
get to a place. So most of the time, when it gets fixed, the perception is that Ayinsuano partly has been fixed, but most of the part is for Anodom Press or in Adreji.
Yeah.
And so yes, up to my village, Krabokese, it's been fixed. But between Krabokese and Kwabwanta, that is the task we have ahead. And we are working on it. It will be fixed. Yeah.
Same question to you.
Yeah.
And for you, I know your constituency like the palm of my hand. Because I was born there. I was raised close to Gaskia.
Yeah.
So, and I was there recently. Nothing much has changed in the poorest parts where I grew up, where I was born, like Midtown area. Nothing much. The public toilet I used to go is still there on a pitch which is black as Sooth, right? I see that recently, and I'm like, Jefferson wants to run in this constituency. Those delegates live and breathe that still.
Yeah. But you should also know...
How are you convincing them?
You should also know that the records are quite clear that almost all the major developmental projects, in terms of gutters and everything that is being constructed in Ablekuma Central constituency were done during the period of the New Patriotic Party.
Such as?
From Okule Norte's time, Ebenezer Lete also did quite a number of projects, gutters from, the Mataiko, Mercy Clinic Junction, all the way to the New Russia, road and all that. I mean, these were done. Unfortunately, we were not able to hold on to power to continue, those kinds of developmental, projects. Well, the NDC's Abdul Dan Latif took over from him. After that, government is also doing quite a number of things in the constituency. Remember that in just February of 2019, we had a municipal assembly in Ablekuma Central constituency, which is obviously putting up a plan that would obviously make things quite easy, and then usher in the real developmental projects that we want to see done. And that is why I want to come in.
But it hasn't happened.
Development, but quite a number of things. The most important thing, the municipal assembly is an assembly that is going to propagate these agendas. And I confidently believe that there's one step at a time with these foundations being laid.
But Jefferson, this is my question was you're going to campaign on a record.
Yes.
The record is what is evident today.
Yes.
And that evidence,
and mind you,
is hard to find.
Yes, it's not hard to find. I mean, we talk about development by government. It's not just only about routes and structures.
Everything else. Yeah,
it's about everything else. For the first time, I mean, we can do a quick comparison of what we are witnessing now and what we were witnessing.
I'm talking about in your constituency, not the country.
Yes.
Your constituency. That's another one.
Today, my constituency people are not sleeping in darkness. There is power, despite the many economic challenges, that's a
national story.
The world, yeah.
I'm talking about the micro-constituency story.
But that is my constituency.
I get it. I know that, but I'm asking the micro-constituency story.
But I think it is important to note that my government, the New Patriotic government led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has done so much so much. A quick comparison. I mean, all the roads being constructed all across the country.
Okay, no, but I want to remain micro because in your constituency, because this is a constituency matter, and your delegates live there. Let me bring in Akusha before I wrap up. Akusha, then another place I lived. And the roads, part of it was done, but part of it still remained undone. I think one of those places, the more you get, the more you ask for. That definitely will play up among the delegates.
It is, because Adenta was, by and large, well, before it was carved out of Ashaiman, it was basically predominantly for farming before urbanization set in. Now, as quickly as it spread, government has tried to catch up. But even as it exists now, the SNIT flats roads have been fixed. I mean, you saw that.
Yeah,
Legon has some bits, and it's not that it's done all of it, but it's important to know that some of the roadworks, majority of it, if not all, was pioneered under the tenure of the former MP, Yalbo Abeyasamoah. And if for nothing at all, it's evidence that the government has paid attention to the constituency and it's gotten its fair share of development. It's certainly not enough, but at least there's evidence of that. So it's a growing concern, and it would improve over time.
Oh, well, listen, I wish you all the best, all of you. Down the line, when the primaries are done, we'll do a review and see whether all your aspirations came to pass. Mark.
When are you coming to Ayinswano? You lived in his constituency, you lived in her constituency.
Invite me.
He's everywhere.
Am I invited?
Yeah, you are. We have a lot of greens, ecotourism.
Yeah, I mean, as you know by now from the things, I'm a hustler. So, and this man too is, because, I know where it is. So if you invite me, put me up in, place I can feel the earth.
Okay.
And smell it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, ecotourism.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll pass by the constituency. I want to come engage whether your confidence is grounded in the facts on the ground.
Sure.
I'll bring my team and come and do some analysis after we visit your place.
You're welcome.
Anyway, thank you all for coming and all the best. Enjoy the rest of the evening.